Now look at the line number 16. Something else howls me through air. Thighs, hair, flakes from my heels. On a surface level, these lines show that something else pulls her up into the tree. Her whole body is howled up, white snowflakes dropping from her heels. These lines are again suggestive of sexual images running side by side, the actual image of riding a horse, galloping in the darkness through the wild bushes and trees. The image of a woman giving birth to her child is very strongly projected between the lines. The words howls and thighs enhance this sexual background. The words hair and flakes also support this approach. However, the riding on a horse through a deep and dark forest is complete in itself. Throughout Sylvia Plath's poetry, the layer images are presented very strongly, though the facial or apparent images are never lost in the strength of the sub-images. White Godiva, I unpeel, dead hands, dead stringencies, and now I foam to weed a glitter of seas. The child's cry melts in the wall. She calls out to Godiva, covers her numb hands, numb sensations. These are numb, maybe there is coldness and snow is falling like flakes. And then she feels foam oozing out of her body. The body's cries absorbed in the wall. The reference or allusion to the historical character of Lady Godiva shows Sylvia Plath's aggressive nature against the opposite sex. We can also find some signs of Electra complex in these types of allusions. Her efforts of finding an equal or alternative of a father in her husband or other men in her life is a living proof of her complex. The image of a woman giving birth to her child, however, is progressively succeeded by these lines, conveying to us the final stage of the labor of a woman during the delivery. We can find all the traces of feminism in such images or word pictures. The words unpeel, foam, child's cry, and melts seem significant in this context of the imagery. We can find a kind of relief in the underlying tone of the poem, a relief a woman experiences just after the delivery of her child. On the other hand, however, the image of riding a horse running with high speed also seems to be complete in these lines. We can take the words wall, wheat, and glitter in the support of this image of ride. The fierce passion of Sylvia Plath, her ambivalent nature, and her aggressive reaction to the menfolk coming so often in the time of her creating poems are apparently very prominent in these lines. Let's move ahead. And I am the arrow, the dew that flies suicidal at one with the drive into the red eye, the cauldron of the morning. Cauldron is in fact a large big pot used for boiling water or cooking food at a greater scale. In these last lines of the poem, the sense of relief in a woman having given birth to her child is mature enough to make us feel the end of not only the labor of a woman but also of the imagery used as a background to convey the high-speed galloping horse ride. The words arrow, dew, the cauldron convey to us the image of a laboring woman. The drive into the red eye is another image of that kind of labor pertaining to the fate of the women since the first day of this world. The word suicidal is a pure expression of Sylvia Plath's aggressive reaction against this natural duty of a woman. Sylvia Plath is a woman against her womanhood. She often gives vent to her feelings in this context of dislike. The image of the horse ride, however, is complete in these lines with the conclusion of falling of a horse against some brick wall. The words drive and arrow convey to us the speed of a horse striking against a wall. The final indictment, however, is the cauldron of mourning, quite ambiguous in its nature. On the sexual level, however, the cauldron of mourning becomes significant and supporting of a sense of relief. On the other hand, red color is the passion and ecstasy of procreation. One theme of the poem is portray of her sufferings too. A critic says, Plath's poems are dark, wasteland kind of expression. And no doubt it is true. It is a ride into the eye of the sun, a journey to death. Man is vulnerable in front of nature. It seems to be like this in this poem. The poem is also about psychological trouble of the poet. Landscape seems to be dissolved. The visual effects in the poem are abundantly there. As the horse runs, outside images fuse with her body. Sun in this poem is the energy. If it dies, there would be stasis in darkness. Like natural elements cannot be separated, same is the case here with the poetess. Images are leaping in the poem. She has used her all senses, which is indication of disintegration of body and soul. The cry of child and dews both are suicidal impulses. She has stripped herself when she says that I unpeel myself. We can also find some Holocaust images in the poem too, and her whole poetry is not at all void of Holocaust images, because we must remember that this was the time of World War II. There are also images of inhalation, because the desire to commit suicide is never absent from the poems. Sylvia Plath has used the word Godiva, white Godiva, in line number 21. White Godiva, or Lady Godiva, was the wife of Leofric, Earl of Mercia, known to have persuaded her husband to found monasteries at Coventry and Stowe. According to legend, she obtained a reduction in the excessive taxes levied by her husband on the people of Coventry by consenting to ride naked through the town on a white horse. Only one person disobeyed her orders to remain indoors behind closed shutters. This man, a tailor known afterward as Peeping Tom, peered through a window and immediately became blind. The oldest form of the legend in the 13th century Flor's Historium. A festival in her honor was instituted as part of Coventry Fair in 1678. Here comes to an end the poem, and so is the video. I hope you would have learned a lot from this video. Thanks for being with Mehreen for such a long time.